All right, welcome to Batting a Thousand, where we talk to the heavy hitters in the mortgage industry. And today, I got one of the heaviest hitters you can ever imagine, a man who needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway to honor him because he is a legend in our industry. Todd Duncan is with us today. Todd is a 2 times New York Times best-selling author. He's authored 17 books, including High Trust Selling, which is really the core thing that he builds his training around. He's trained over 5 million professionals worldwide, has spoken to groups as large as 70,000 people, and he's been featured in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the Los Angeles Times, Entrepreneur Magazine, Success Magazine, Fox, CNN. This man has done it all. And more importantly than all of that, he is just an incredibly kind, generous, and ethical guy. He has led people in such incredible ways, changed more lives than anybody I probably know in the mortgage industry. Todd, it is such an honor to be with you today. Thanks for joining us.
It's an honor for me too, Dale. And it's like you wake up in the morning and you realize that you're blessed and that
That's
you
right.
get an opportunity to impact lives. And I think there's a story for everybody that watches this conversation that we're about to have on, waking up with purpose and waking up with intention and making a difference. And there's no higher calling, I think, than that. I
Amen.
was a little bit disappointed, however, this morning because I was talking with somebody else and they had a hat on that they said you gave them, and it said others first. And I'm wondering, why don't I have that hat
Well, you're going to. We'll be sure to send it to you, guaranteed.
yet? Little levity to start things off, and I thought it was interesting that without having this time with you, somebody else brought you up in the same high regard that you introduced me, which I'm grateful for. And together, brother, it's really really fun to make a difference.
It really is. It really is. And you are certainly an others first kind of guy. You put people before yourself, and that's one of the things that I've always loved about you and admired about you over the years. So here's where I want to start the conversation. You and I had a great chance last week to hang out together at the
Yeah.
AIM Fuse 6 conference. You did an incredible speech there, like you always do, and you talked about something that I just absolutely loved, and that was faith over fear. How that is one of the key things today. So let's open this up by talking about, we're in a crazy market right now, as you know. Rates have hit all-time highs in 23 years. We're seeing deals fall out on the backside on people that they haven't seen that happen before. And a lot of that, I think success today
Yeah.
is dictated on how we mentally face this market and have the right mindset. So could you share with us some of your thoughts about that? Because I know you've got a lot of
Mhm.
strategies and ideas around that.
Yeah. So I maybe the best place to start, and I want to say this with a lot of kind of nostalgia. I got in the loan business when I was 23 years old, and my timing couldn't have been worse because I entered a market that many mortgage professionals today have never, and probably, don't even correlate that we've had bad markets before. This one feels deep and it cuts
Yeah.
deep because so many loan originators have only had a 10-year experience of kind of like how the business was easier than it is right now in this moment. But if you go all
Right.
the way back to when I started, we had a lot of the same stuff going on. We had interest rates higher than they had ever been. Prime was
Yep.
20%. To fund an
Yep.
FHA or VA loan was 17.5%, and maybe 4 or 5 points.
Yep.
Consumer confidence was in the tank. Unemployment was at an all-time high. We
Yep.
were in a full-blown recession. And the vibe on the street is nobody is going to buy a house in today's market.
Yep.
So that's how I started. And I had a 3-month guarantee of $1,500. And that was it. My grandmother gave me a book when I was in college called Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude. And Napoleon Hill and W. Clement Stone wrote that book, and I
Yep.
devoured it. I absolutely devoured it because I always knew that there was some kind of difference between the people that were attractive in the marketplace. And by that, I mean from the value proposition, from the, like, you can feel it, right? You can feel it when you're next to somebody who's got the right kind of spirit going on. And I figured that I can't control any of what has caused this. I
That's
can't
right.
control the government. I can't control the feds. I can't control rates. I can't control the bank. I can't control anything. The only thing I can control is what I do in the market I'm in. And
Correct.
so in this book was these amazing tidbits of how to choose a positive mindset. And a positive mindset, I'm not talking about, I'm so excited. I'm talking about what's going on in here.
That's right.
That is the only offense you have right now in the face of being negative. So what I did is I had a button made up that was about the size of a softball, probably 3 inches or so. And that button was green, and on it was this phrase: rumor has it we're in a recession. I'm not participating.
I love it.
And I wore that in every borrower interview. I wore that in every real estate agent call. I wore it every day. And what it did is it fostered this question: why are you so positive? And then I got a chance to answer it. I got a chance to say the good news about rates where they are right now is they'll probably never be this high again.
That's
And
right.
the good news about you and me is that I'm going to help you with your mortgage for the next 20 years. So we can either wait a couple years or we can decide if this works now for you. Either way, I'm here to serve. And either way, I'm here to help. So in that book, 300-page book, this is the phrase that has stuck with me my whole life. There's very little difference between those that succeed and those that fail. But the little difference makes the big difference. The little difference is attitude, and the big difference is whether it's positive or negative. And that's
Outstanding. Yep.
And if you don't choose positivity and balance it with hope, which leads to faith, you're stuck in today's market. And here's the deal about mindset. The longer you're stuck, the worse your mindset gets.
That's true.
So the key to everything is to get unstuck. That's the key. And you can't get unstuck unless you replace fear with faith. And faith tells us scripturally that it's the assurance of things hoped for. I hope the market gets better. I hope that people start buying homes. I hope that real estate agents will refer business to me. I hope. And the conviction of things not yet seen. So what does conviction mean? It might mean it's going to take another 90 days to get through this. But you're either gonna survive or you're not. It's going to be that simple. And I would rather arm people today with faith and strategy instead of fear and stagnation. I talked to somebody 2 weeks ago, right before we went to Vegas and hooked up at AIM 2 weeks ago. And she said, I decided 4 months ago that the market wasn't going to get any better. And if it did, I would still do what I'm about to do because I think it would bless me even when the market got better. She went from doing weekly lunch and learns for 30 real estate agents, and she had blown out 10 cubes in her office, and she had the agents come to her instead of her trying to go out and, all of this. And that worked until rates went up. And so she asked me, what should I do? And I said, you should widen your net. She goes, I can't. I only have 30 seats in my office. And I go, is there a hotel within a mile of you? And she goes, yes. And I go, invite 100 and go rent a ballroom. She goes, really? And I go, yeah, invite 100 and go rent a ballroom because the 30 that served you last year are not doing enough business to serve you this year.
That's right.
So she does this. She starts to market it, gets on social. Her goal was 100 agents in the seats. She put together a 5-agent panel. 2 agents she had a relationship with, 3 she didn't. And she facilitated a 2-hour conversation about how to win in today's market. She had 91 real estate agents show up.
Awesome.
And then the next 2 weeks locked over $5 million in loans. Awesome. Now, let me ask you a question, Dale. Do you think she's more excited or less excited about going from 30 to 100 in today's market?
Oh, I bet she's a whole lot more excited.
Yeah. And what's really interesting, and I'll say this, and then if we want to get tactical, we can do it. What's really interesting, I got a text from her yesterday, and I've not done this yet, so might as well read it to your audience because this is really, it's like you and I can talk all day long about mindset, but when you talk to somebody that does it, right? So here's what she says. 30 seconds of stuff. She goes, I had the most wonderful day today with a real estate agent from the lunch and learn I did 4 weeks ago. She approached me afterwards and she said, that was an amazing experience. I followed up with her and asked her if she'd like to go on a hike in the canyons and just chat about life and business. And she said she brought her dog, she brought her dog and drove to me, and we spent 5 hours talking about how I can help her win. Talk about a high trust interview. You teach us to do it in 30 minutes. I took 5 hours going deep. She goes on to say that at the end of that time, we were friends. And the day after that, she referred 3 buyers to me. So what worked in the past does not work right now. And you got to go on the offense. And you got to change your thinking. And you got to move forward. If you're stuck, you got to move.
There is just a whole lot of wisdom. I love when you talked about fear and strategy faith and strategy versus fear and stagnation. That's a drop the mic moment right there of something that we can really clutch onto. I had a really good friend of mine years ago who said to me one day, he said, if you're going to pray for rain, you better have a hoe in your hand. And I never forgot that quote because he's absolutely right. We need to have faith and hope, but we also need to be willing to work when the opportunity avails itself. And a lot of what I see today, I'm sure you see the same thing, is we see people are hoping for things to get better, but they're not doing anything different to change their surroundings to create some of that. And that's what has to happen in today's marketplace is you have to understand that, look, we've been here before. This is nothing new in this market. You started when rates were super high. I started when rates were super high in 1983, just a year or two after you did. Rates were 17 and a half that I was selling for the first 7 years I was in the business. When we got down to 15.5% rates, we thought it was, the greatest thing that ever happened. And when I ended my career at 12 and a half, I thought it was free money at that point. So we see these rates, we don't think anything about it. And we know that no matter what rates do, people are going to buy, people are going to borrow. That's always going to happen. You can be assured of that. James Cameron had a great quote. He said, hope is not a strategy, luck is not a factor, and fear is not an option. And I remind people a lot that we absolutely need to have hope in everything that we do. If we don't have faith that builds hope, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
But when it comes to our business, we can't just sit around and hope all day that it's going to rain business. We got to make it rain business. And then we've got to work through that process that comes with that. So let's get strategic here because, look, you are the master of helping people understand how to attack their business. You said something earlier that I totally agree with. The speech that I did, you probably heard me talk about the 4X prospecting today. You've got to have 4 times the size network today you had in 2021 to get the same kind of results because of the drop in the realtors business and all the things that are affecting the economy. It's just not the mortgage side that's hurt. So let's talk for a little bit about some of the strategies that you are teaching and employing. You've got 37 coaches that work with loan officers across the country. By the way, if you're not working with the Todd Duncan Group, you need to work with the Todd Duncan Group. You need to get coached by Todd's team. But talk a little bit about what you guys are sharing with people in this marketplace, because you and I are both veterans of high rate marketplaces. Just like you, I never dropped a borrower's rate a day in my life in the 12 years that I managed, thousands of loan officers. And I had people closing 35 loans a month, raising rates every day. This is a market where you have to do that. How are you doing that today?
So the first thing, and I don't want this to sound anything other than complimenting to what you said at the start of that question. And that is, being a guy that has had to make choices, just like all of us, between fear and faith. The interesting thing about faith is there is hope. And if you don't have faith, then hope is not a strategy. But if you have faith and you don't execute action, faith does not bear itself out. So what we do is we take this word fear and we go, It can either be false experiences appearing real, which is we put onto something a future that is negative that is rarely going to happen, right? Call reluctance
Yep.
is one of those great examples.
Yep.
So the way to change call reluctance today is to move from false experiences appearing real. If I call that realtor, she's probably not doing business. If I calling that person, I'm not sure I have what it takes to get them to say yes, blah, 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 blah. So
Right.
then what we have to do is we have to understand that the world's greatest performers in any discipline, including mortgage, practice more than they play. So one of the ways to move from fear to some sense of face everything and rise, same word, face everything and rise, is to be equipped. I can rise above the noise. I can get
Yep.
higher. A hawk can see a rabbit, but the rabbit cannot see the hawk. And
Right.
what you have to do is you have to rise above the circumstance. How do you do that? You make a choice, number one, and you practice, number two, and then you act, number three. And I'll give you a style on what that looks like in just a sec. The third thing, though,
Okay.
is if I can face everything and rise, and I can understand the value of practice and being equipped to do the things that I'm going to be faced to do, and to know that if I'm not equipped, I lose. And to know if I am equipped, the odds go up that I'll win and I'll be able to help the customer win. So the final acronym of the same word is feeling excited and ready.
Love it.
And how do I do that? Well, I have to move, and I got to say this really slowly. Thought without action is useless.
So true.
Action without thought is dangerous. And so what I'm telling people today is think about this for just a second. Think about a simple strategy. If you want to widen your net, which you have to do, and if you realize that the 10 realtors that you love aren't able to give you the same amount of business, then you maybe need to go to 20, you maybe need to go to 30. And people go, well, how do I do that? I don't have time for that. Well, you totally have time. You call each of the 10 and you say, listen, Dale, the market's hard. I need to expand my reach. I'd rather not make any cold calls. So who are 5 of your best friends that sell real estate that I could call using your name who need a partnership like you and I have, Dale? And she's going to give me, you're going to give me, he's going to give me, here's 5 friends.
Yep.
So then I called Dan. I go, hey, Dan, it's Todd Duncan with ABC Financial. I was talking with Dale Vermillion the other day, and he said you're one of his best friends. You're a real estate agent. He said you're having some rocky moments with your lender and that maybe you and I should sit down so that we could see if we could foster a relationship like I have with him. Do you have some time in the next 2 days to meet? I'll meet you anywhere, face to face, to have a conversation about how I can help you win in real estate today. If I did that between now, Dale, and 7 days from listening to this, I would have 50 phone calls to 50 referred to realtors, which increases my conversion rate of setting appointments like there's no tomorrow. If I have a referral instead of a cold call, conversion to appointment from call can be as high as 95%. Especially in a market like we're in today. So then the next thing that the loan officer fears is, great idea. What do I do with Dan, who Dale referred me to, when Dan says, let's meet? Well, you meet and you look at Dan and say, here's where I'd like to start. What are your 3 top challenges right now? And how can I help you solve those challenges? And they're not going to be uniquely different. You know this, Dale. I know this, that the needs that people have right now. So then I need more sellers. I need more buyers who are actively wanting to buy and sell. I go, great. What are you doing right now to get them? And they're probably going to say, I'm knocking on doors. I'm farming. I'm making phone calls. I'm doing social posts, this, that, and the other thing. And I go, so when was your last closing, Dale? Or Dan? And Dan says 3 weeks ago. And I go, have you talked to that buyer since closing and asked him this? And let's just call it Dan and Janet. Hey, Dan and Janet, so excited you're in your new home right now. I'm building my business by referral only. Now that you're settled in your house, I'd like to plug into whomever you know that you think is going to buy or sell, maybe invest in real estate in the next 12 months that we could contact using your guy's experience, not your name, your guy's experience. So now it's all of a sudden, Dan, the realtor, goes, no. And I go, why not? Well, I don't know. So we look at this idea that, like, if you give me a buyer and I am your lending partner, because I do this for Dale, my other partner, every single buyer is told at the application appointment, and when that is done and ready to go, and they are sold and they trust me and my team, they are told that's the only way we build our business. Now imagine this. Imagine if every loan officer right now, 24 hours after an application, 7 days into a contract, 14 days into processing, 7 days prior to clear to close, and 7 days after closing, and then 90 days after closing, and then 6 months after closing, had 8 referral opportunities per borrower. You had 10 loans in process. You have 8 opportunities for referrals each. That's 80 referrals. Can I just say to everybody listening, there's enough people buying real estate today for you to make more money than you're making right now, to have more peace of mind than you have right now, to have more security than you have right now. They're out there. You just got to get unstuck. And you talk about getting tactical. I just gave you like 3 tactical things to do this.
That was awesome.
But to do them and to be confident, feeling excited and ready, you need to just do what you and I did for about an hour. Sit down and have this kind of appointment setting role play with another LO, and then he or she gets to do it with you. But here's the deal. Stop talking. Start asking fewer questions that are penetrating questions, and then listen for as long as you can so that you can figure out how to solve people's needs. You talk too much right now because it's chaotic and you're scared, you're not going to get business.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So, Todd, everything you just said there was so incredibly powerful. That was pure gold. Loved it. You and I are so like-minded in the way we approach the business. And look, the number one mistake, and we both seen it because we both train millions of loan officers across the country. The number one problem is we talk our way right in and right out of deals every single day.
Yeah.
The key to success in today's marketplace is simple. It's put that realtor before yourself. You're not there to get anything. You're there to give them something. It's that give to get mentality that I've taught my whole career. You know, I've always said, if you're going to win the business with your partners, the only way you're going to win it is by improving their business and improving their life, not by trying to sell them your products and your services that everybody else is also trying to sell the same thing and they're tired of hearing about. And you made it so simple in that example of how today a loan officer can expand their realtor and their partner base exponentially by not trying to cold call, because they do have call reluctance today and they are pushing too hard, but instead by leveraging the relationships you already have to turn them into more relationships down the road. And you're right. Your conversion rates exponentially blow up when you do that, because now that realtor is going to call that person who referred you and say, so tell me about Todd Duncan. They're going to say, oh my gosh, he's amazing. He's one of our best lenders. He's our go-to. And it's an automatic done deal. You don't have to sell yourself because your partner's selling for you. It's the right way to approach it. You know, when you were talking, a quote from Morris Chain came into mind that I've always loved. He said, execution without strategy is useless. Strategy without execution is pointless.
Yeah.
Great quote that I've used many, many times, because it's exactly what you said a moment ago. You've got to be able to connect the dots so that you're combining both your strategy and your execution. And the thing that you said in there that I thought was so powerful that nobody does, and I talk about this all the time too, is practicing and role playing before you get a live partner or prospect on that phone and in that conversation. Warm yourself up. You know, I've used this analogy many times, and it's perfect for batting 1,000. We've all been to professional baseball games. What you'll never see at a professional baseball game is a baseball player watch straight from the dugout to the batter's box. It never happens. They go to the on-deck circle first. Now, these guys know how to hit a baseball. They've hit millions of them. So why do they go there before every time at the plate? Because they're getting themselves ready, mentally prepared and physically prepared for a 99-mile-an-hour fastball.
Yeah.
And that's what we get a lot of times with customers and with partners is 99-mile-an-hour fastballs. You're not going to be able to handle that unless you've warmed yourself up and practiced your approach with somebody else. So that was just absolute pure gold in today's marketplace, because you're absolutely right. We've got to expand our databases. We've got to work with more partners. And the best way to do that is through relationships you already have. That's key.
I think in that, just to put an exclamation mark on practice, everybody, myself included, Dale, you included, everybody, when they do something the first time, they don't do it well. Whatever
right.
it is, whether it's talking to a borrower the first time or talking to a real estate agent, learning how to snowboard. I'm a private pilot, learning how to land. None of this is easy when we do it for the first time. And somewhere between Earl Nightingale saying, if you practice your trade for an hour a day in 3 years, you'll be a world expert, and the 10,000 hour rule, which I still can't find the absolute epicenter for where that rule came from, but I can see it. If you watch the show Quarterback and you watch the three quarterbacks that are featured during the 2022 series season, one of them is Kirk Cousins, the quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. There's a moment in episode 3 where he's working with his quarterback coach, and he says to his quarterback coach, I've got to record every third down play call in my phone so that all week long I can listen to the play calls for the third down, because that's where they decided they needed to improve conversion, right? Same thing that we're kind of going through.
That's right.
And there's this clip with him practicing the plays. The phone says what the play is. He repeats the play. The phone says the play. He repeats the play. It's all in this audible, so he says at the end of this, and this is the point. He goes, when it gets to Sunday, I don't want to have to think. I just want to execute. And a loan officer today that says, I do not have faith in making sales calls on realtors. If you spent tomorrow for 8 hours role playing, setting appointments, Monday, you'd be ready to go.
That's right.
Even if you feel like it didn't go quite according to plan, the real estate agent is not going to say, gosh, that Todd Linder guy, he missed that one sentence in that script that he should have. They're never going to say that. And so we've got to understand that. So listen, competence is first. If you're not competent at something, you will not have confidence. Mindset. If you're competent and you practice, then you have confidence. What happens when you have confidence? Confidence leads to, just think about this. Oh my gosh, if I'm not good, I'm not going to take action. I'm not going to take action because I'm not good. So if I get good, then I'll be confident, which leads to consistency. But if I'm not competent and I'm not confident, I surely am not going to be consistent. So here's the interesting thing. The fourth C is compounding. And compounding works both ways. You can not be competent, stay in business, and the negative compound effect is going to take you away from whatever success opportunity you have. But if I get competent, and then I get confident, and then I do the right thing every day, every single day, then the compound effect goes the other way. So I'm talking to a guy today. I asked him, we taught mindset on Tuesday. I asked everybody yesterday, what's one thing you've done that has changed your mindset in 48 hours? This guy said, this is as simple as it is. This guy said, I made a decision that all technology would be off between 8:30 and 10, and that I would simply call the people that I printed the call list out the night before 10 o'clock.
Yep.
And he said, I got 3 loans since Tuesday that I would not have gotten had I not decided between 8:30 and 10, I'm going to turn everything that interrupts me off. And I'm going to focus on making my impact by 10. The whole rest of the day can get shot. But at least I know I've done the right thing. So what would happen, this is for your audience, what would happen if every day for 1 hour, you called realtor partners, asked how you could serve them, asked what they needed to have from you, Agree to meet, agree to help the borrowers that they refer to you, find more borrowers that you can bring back to them, hour a day. Then what would happen if you talk to, I don't know, 2 to 4 borrowers a day because you're talking to the right real estate agents, right? And so then it's like, okay, that's 20 a week. That's 80 conversations a month. If I could get 2 referrals a week from 10 agents or 1 referral a week from 20 agents and do that every single day, think about how my business would be different in 30 days.
That's right.
And then if I can just make sure that because I have made a decision that relationships are more important than transactions, my desire to follow up is not because it's some skill that somebody taught from stage at a seminar. My desire to follow up with you is because I care about you. And I want a relationship with you. I'm not following up because some CRM told me to call you today. I'm following up because I love you and I care about you and I want to help you win. You don't have any call reluctance now.
Yep.
And that deal is to your whole OS. Your whole thing is the generous person will prosper. If you help others, you will get your fair share.
That's exactly right.
That's 100% right. If you don't help others, you're going to have call reluctance and you're not going to be valuable in the marketplace.
I love that. So this morning I was having a chat with a loan officer that I was coaching who did $4.5 million last month. He's on pace for $5 million this month. And I asked him the one question: why do you think you're doing those kind of numbers in this market so easily? And his answer was simply this: I get up and call 30 realtors every morning religiously. I've done it for 10 years. I'll do it for the next 10 years. I'll do it till I retire. It is the difference maker. What you just said is so simplistic, and it's so true. If we will just commit our mornings, I've said this in a lot of the keynotes that I've done over the years. When I was a manager, I had a rule. And the rule was, if I caught you in your email before 11 o'clock, I fired you on the spot. And people always say to me, why would you do that? And here was my answer: because there ain't nothing good in there. That's why. Because I want you selling before you get into the mess that is in your email box of problems and processor emails and cancel deals and everything that derails us during the day. So what you said is exactly what every originator needs to do today to succeed. And I want to key in on what you talked about a moment ago is relationship, because you and I had a backstage conversation about this last weekend when we were together, that what I think is the number one problem outside of the mindset and just the lack of really putting a lot of effort forward today, I think the other real big problem is too many originators are replacing technology for relationship and thinking that they're going to have loyalty with customers when all they're doing is sending them a link, then having a conversation that goes straight to pricing and product and program, and never really showing that love, trust relationship that you and I value so much as part of our business. I've always said it's interesting to me that the word conversion and the word conversation, conversion is embedded in conversation.
Yeah.
The only difference is the A and the T that are in the middle of conversation. And the A and the T, as far as I'm concerned, stands for allow time. Allow time to build conversation that leads to conversion, because relationship is the key to everything we do. We know in this marketplace, no matter what rates do, people will buy, people will borrow. There's plenty of business out there if you're willing to do what you need to do to get there. But the key is today, relationship. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because this is something through your high trust selling that I know is core to everything you believe and you teach, is the power of really having your customers love and trust you.
Yeah. 3 things I'll say real quick. First, I don't want to answer the question until I talk about email. The bottom line is 8 out of every 10 emails will mess with your mind, take you negative, and they're really an email that you shouldn't be reading anyway. And so at some point or another, you need to ask the question, like, do I have my physician's personal email? And the probably the answer is you don't. And even though it may be his or her at whatever, there's a very good strong chance that if I am a physician, I am not checking my own email. And if I am, it's it's already been processed, and what I'm checking are the things that I have to check. Imagine this. Imagine the fact that you spend 1 hour on email, and that 1 hour could make you $5,000 if you didn't spend it on email and you had skill enough where you didn't hide behind technology and call that value. Because technology itself will never replace the human connection. So you got to understand that. If you're hiding behind technology and you're hiding behind social media, dollarize how that's working for you. And then just understand, like if I gave somebody $200 an hour, very competent person, just to deal with my email, and I got all that time back to build a relationship, then what would my business look like right now? And then just take that and apply it to the whole day. What are the things you do all day long that don't produce revenue? And the reason why that needs to be asked and answered is because you're transactionally focused. If you're relationally focused, you don't worry about the transactions. You focus on building value in the relationship. So where's the best place to build that value and then to embed that thought in the conversation? So I can say to one of these real estate agents, Dan, that Dale referred me to, I can say, hey, Dan, I'm different than every loan officer you've ever dealt with. I already have his attention, right?
Yep.
How are you different? He's asking in his mind. Instead of looking for loans, I actually help my real estate agents find more buyers and sellers. I want to help them be successful. And I know if I do that really well, the loans will happen. So before we get into any discussion of how we might do business together, help me understand why you chose real estate and what's important about being a professional real estate agent to you. And I want to have that conversation because if Dan tells me, I wake up every day and the reason I chose this is I love watching people get a key to the home. And I go, great, what's that do for you? He goes, it brings me joy and happiness. I go, great. Have you ever worked with a lender that their entire approach is to help you experience more joy and happiness? And Dan's going to go, what? No, seriously, that's all we want to do. We want to help you watch more people get keys to homes so you can have more joy and happiness. Do you want to discuss how we could get that done? And Dan's going to say yes. Okay, so what if I take a borrower? What if I do the same thing with a borrower? What if I say to a borrower, before we get started, every lender you could call today is probably going to quote you a rate in this conversation. I'm not going to do that. We're different than every lender out there. We play the long game. You're going to own real estate as a first-time home buyer for probably 30 years. We want to start today to create the best mortgage solution for you, architect that solution, help you manage that mortgage so that every year the mortgage is working for you instead of you working for it. So before we talk about interest rates, I want to ask you one question. What would it mean to you to own your first home? I don't ask 10 questions. I don't ask 20 questions right now. I don't go through pre-qual right now. I want you and I to connect. Always be connecting and having that conversation. And if a borrower says, you know what, we'd be the first family in the history of our family to own real estate, that would mean the world to us. I'm just going to look them in the eye and I'm going to say, you know what, I'm going to help make that happen. Are you ready to get started? I'm going to close before I qualify. I'm going to get you engaged before I have some random pricing conversation with you, which somebody can beat me anyway. And I'm gonna, in a very positive, high trust way, throw the industry under the bus. I'm not intentional on making anybody bad and wrong. I'm just going to simply say most lenders would quote you a rate right now.
Which
the reason
is true.
I'm not going to do that. The reason I'm not going to do that is because I have no idea what you want to achieve in real estate. I have no idea what's important to you about your finances. I have no idea how much money you make. But I have an idea that if you want to be the first family in the history of your family to own real estate, we're going to make that happen. Are you ready to get started? And what I tell people, Dale, is, and I think you alluded to this in your speech, you have to decide. You have to decide if you're wise enough, confident enough, and skilled enough to be a mortgage advisor instead of a loan officer. You have to make that decision. And you have to understand that you choose your value proposition. You can choose the McDonald's value prop. lots of customers, inexpensive burgers, not very good. Or you can choose DB Bistro in New York City. Okay,
Right.
not a lot of customers, very expensive burger, but always weeks to get a reservation. A 99-cent burger, a $32 burger. Or you can't be both.
Right.
You can't be both. You have to choose your path. And that's the discipline of market leaders, is I choose my path. I'm going to advise you on the largest debt you will ever have. And I'm going to show you month after month, year after year, the strategic value of managing that debt and making your real estate work for you instead of you working for it. That's called, in neuroscience, a pattern interrupt. As soon as a borrower hears that, they're going to go, wow, I had no idea.
That's right.
And so that's what we have to do, you guys. The minute you get into the price business, you are simultaneously in the concession business. That's not the way you build emotional and economic wealth.
That's exactly right, man. I'll tell you what, I loved everything you just said there, and it so dovetails with what we've taught for 30 years too. Is
Right?
I love the close before you qualify. I hope the audience understands the power of what Todd just said, because this is the number one problem in the industry today.
100%.
We start the conversation with, so what's your FICO score? It's crazy story. In the first quarter of this year, I listened to over 300 recorded phone calls of loan officers.
Wow.
And I logged in those what the number one most common question a loan officer asks is the first question. You know what it was? What's your credit score? Think about that for just a minute. We're sending a message to our borrowers that if you're good enough, I'm going to spend time with you. If you're not, I'm not going to spend time with you. That is not the message we want to send. It's so interesting in all the seminars that I've done over the years, Todd. I've done this many times where I'll say to the group of loan officers, let me ask y'all a question. How many of you would consider yourselves dishonest? And none of them raise their hand. I go, of course you're not. Now let me ask you a question. How many of you quote a rate in the first 5 minutes have done that with a borrower? All of them raise their hand. I go, hate to tell you, you're all dishonest then.
Right.
You're not meaning to be. It's not your intention.
Right.
You're nice, honest people, but you're telling them something that's not true. You don't know what that rate is.
Right.
You have no idea, to your point, what their qualifications, what their situation, what their goals are, what they're trying to accomplish. You don't know any of that. So quoting up front is going to kill you every time. And in a rising rate market, it's death immediately. You live by the sword, you die by the sword when you do that.
Death by
so I
paper,
love the way
paper
you
cuts.
It is. And I love the way you just position that it's all about building conversation with that customer to get them to talk. And then what if I could? And you took them right into owning a home.
And
Beautiful way to
just
segue.
to make sure you and I remain at the top of professional integrity, if anybody's having problems with what I just said, close before you qualify, you have the wrong strategy anyway. I want to say that lovingly.
Right.
And you might say, well, what if they don't qualify? Well, what if they don't? And they still want to buy a home? Okay, whenever they're ready to buy a home, they're going to use the lender that helped them get qualified. So let me tell you I learned as a 23-year-old. I learned never to tell a realtor the borrower doesn't qualify. I learned never to tell a borrower you don't qualify. I learned always to say the Johnsons will be able to be qualified in the next 6 months.
Bingo.
If they do these 3 things. We have a funnel in High Trust Selling. Our academy spends 3 hours on this funnel, and our next academy is in November in Las Vegas. This funnel says, I am going to follow up with you until you buy. You may not qualify today, but in 1 year you will qualify. If you're a platinum at the bottom of the funnel, you qualify and you're going to buy within 90 days. If you're gold, you're going to qualify within 91 to 180 days. If you're silver, you're going to qualify within 181 days and 270. And if you're green, you're going to qualify from 271 days to 600, 700 days. I'm going to go that far out. You know why? Because as soon as you get qualified, you're going to tell like all of your friends who don't qualify. Now, I'm not saying go after unqualifiable business. You can't do that because that's a headache
Right.
too. But if I
That's
care
right.
about you and I care about the realtor that referred you to me, I'm never going to tell you a soul crushing truth. You don't qualify. I'm never going to tell you that. I'm going to look you in the eyes and say, there's 3 things we need to help you do in the next 6 months. And as soon as we do those 3 things, you're going to be able to qualify. Now, watch this. Most realtors will have forgotten about that borrower.
That's right.
And then you get to call them in 6 months and say, you probably don't remember the Johnsons that you referred to me in March. They weren't able to get approved for a loan then. Now they are. You need to start showing them real estate.
That's right.
So
Love it.
Qualify after you connect and convert and close. Do that, because if I do that, every day I do that, I'm building my future value adds, and people will never forget that. They'll just never forget it. So
that's a life-changing process. It's as I've trained my whole career, it's never no, it's not now. That's the message you're sending.
That's beautiful.
Yep.
Yeah.
And, the goal is we want every customer to be our customer someday.
Yeah.
That may not be today. It may be next month. It may be next year, but someday we're going to work together. And that's the way I used to position it. And this was the interesting thing. All the years that I managed, and every team I managed was number one in any capacity I had, because I focused on training them the right way to do things. Yeah. And here was the key: 25% on average of all the business we did was out of our turn down files. That's because we built relationship with those people the same as we did with the ones who qualified. Yeah. We didn't say, oh, you don't qualify, I don't have time for you. Oh, you know what? We're going to help you qualify because we do have time for you. And man, did that pay big dividends for my team, and it will for people today.
Yeah, the business your future business is not what you do in the future. Your future business is what you do in the present. And that's the compound effect. So if all of a sudden, 12 years after becoming a loan officer, we had helped almost 6,000 borrowers finance real estate. My database of people that weren't qualifiable yet at 12 years, which is when I sold my business, we had over 3,000 people in that funnel I just described that were getting qualified. And part of the value of your mortgage practice is not what you do to help the single individual buy a home. It's what you do to help everybody that will buy a home whenever they're ready. And if you don't, we just completed a survey in June, Dale. We had just shy of 20,000 loan officers that answered 25 questions. Do you know that 88% of loan officers say that they're horrible before the app is real and they're horrible after the loan closes? And that only 4% of loan officers out of almost 20,000, which makes this in the industry accurate to a 96 percentile with a plus or minus of less than 1.
Wow.
Listen, 4% of the industry follows up after closing and nurtures that relationship into a lifetime relationship. 4%. 96% are transactionally focused and one and done.
Yep.
You know what that does? That makes you work like 20 years longer. How could you at the age of 34 be retirable? I didn't retire because I started this company, but how could you be? Because you spend 12 years of focus with the right relationships, with the right my number one real estate agent gave me $70 million in loans in 4 years with an average loan amount of $86,000. You want to talk about value, and you want to talk about, just loyalty. And it took 18 months to get her to get me my first loan because she already had a lender.
Yeah.
But here's what I want you to know. If you follow what Dale and I are talking about and you really get deep in this, you could do in the next 10 years what would otherwise require 20 to 30 years of your labor. If you get smart, you practice, you're game ready, and you're consistent. If not, you will, as the Bible says, labor under the sun.
That's right.
And that's just sad to me. It's sad to me to watch people that are burned out at the age of 54 or 58 or 60, because they've just gotten the crap kicked out of them for 3 decades.
Yep.
There's a better way. And hopefully,
there is.
Hopefully, if you go to toddduncan.com, you can see the free tools that we have to help you do a better way. One of which is business planning for 2024. You can have anything you want. You can have anything you want in this business if you have faith, you're game ready, and you're consistent.
Yep.
Period.
Yep.
Faith,
Well,
ready, consistent.
I know for you and I, Todd, our faith in Christ has been the game changer for us in having confidence in the things that we do. Um, you said it so well today that having faith, having trust, these are key elements of success for anybody out there listening today. And I know that, for me and you, that's been a center part of our lives that has helped guide us through everything that we've done. And you know what? When you're working with a purpose where that you're okay at the end of the day, you're loved and forgiven no matter what happens, it changes your whole perspective on things. It really does. And that's something that we share that I'm very appreciative. And the more I listen to you, man, the more I love you, because just incredible wisdom and insight into how to be successful. When you were just talking about that whole referral concept and that $70 million, it reminded me of back in the day when I was sales manager. I had an accountant that I built an incredible relationship with, did a great loan for him, and asked him the question at the end, you're a CPA, you own your own business. Is there any chance I could work with your clients to do that? And I'll never forget his answer. He said, you know what? I would love that. And I said, how many clients do you have? He said, 1,100. And I said, that'll work. And within 10 days, I had 137 applications from that one CPA, all relationship based. And it was just because I asked for the business. Again, I think today's technology, sometimes what originators do is they think, well, the technology is going to follow up with them. No, you need to pick up the phone and call your customers for the rest of their lives and the rest of your career, and you will make a big difference. Well, Todd, I could sit and chat with you forever, but I want to be respectful of your time and the audience's time. So I would love to hear more about, you said you guys have some 2024 business plans coming up. You've got some training coming up. Talk about where people can reach you. Again, I want to say, if you are not working with the Todd Duncan Group, I really want you to consider it today. Todd's group has changed more lives in this industry. It's incredible stuff. So talk a little bit about your business and how people can get a hold of you and what you guys got going on coming up.
Yeah, I think if you ask me what I do for a living, I help loan officers fall in love with their life and become prosperous. And so if that's appealing to you, you can hang out with me on social at Todd Duncan Official on Instagram or LinkedIn. You can go to toddduncan.com and you can download the free business planning tools. You can actually fill it out online, and it will tell you what you need to do every day to make your dreams come true. The most important event that I've ever done, I've done it for over 100,000 loan officers since 1992. It's called the High Trust Sales Academy. It's you and me and 200 loan officers that want to be their best for 4 days, 10 hours a day, and we just lay it out. I got a 400-page workbook that I'm going through right now to make sure that I update everything in this playbook that is responsible to impact you in today's market. The investment is less than 1/2 of a loan commission and will change your life forever. As part of that, you get to hang out with me for 90 days after the event is done, and we keep you on the right track. And people go, well, that's too expensive. Can I just tell you right now that you're losing $5,000 to $10,000 a month by not knowing what to do? And so you can continue to do that every single month, or you can make a decision that I'm going to be there. I'm going to go to Las Vegas. We're not on the strip. We're out of town where we can focus on building and doing stuff great. But just come and look at the High Trust Sales Academy online and look at the testimonials. And if it's right for you, it's right for you. We have 40 seats left. It always sells out. And but beyond that, here's the drill. You got this, and God's got you. And you should wake up every single day knowing that He's got it all under control. And you have to trust that. You have to trust.
That's right.
You can trust the universe, but I'd rather trust God who created the universe.
That's right.
And He's got our best life already figured out. I tell my sons all the time, hey, He already knows what you're going to do next week. He already knows where you're going to be when you're 40. You're 27. Don't worry about that. Let's be who you need to be today and trust the future, but don't squander the gift of time. Don't end up with regrets because you didn't do the right things soon enough. You didn't master the trade soon enough. You were one of many instead of the only one. You were on demand instead of in demand. Okay? Don't squander your time. Add value, do it fast, do it real, do it with relationship, connect at the heart, don't FICO score the head, and you're going to be fine. And then your family and your life are healthy too. So,
and that's really what it's all about.
100%.
It's about being successful
100%.
in all realms of life.
100%.
And I love what you talked about a moment ago, because I've closed just about every session I've ever done with, hey, we didn't create the universe. We don't need to run it.
Right.
Let God do his job and you go do yours. That's really what it comes down to.
Love it.
Todd, this has been just golden. I want to tell you, I want to thank you again, just publicly on behalf of the entire mortgage industry, for the decades that you have invested into people, into this industry, to make it a better place to work. You are responsible for so many people's success, and keep doing what you're doing. It's great to see how you are just continuing to make such a massive impact in our industry. We're really grateful for you. I'm very grateful for the relationship and the friendship, and the wisdom that you shared today was unbelievable. So thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. God bless you and your family. Appreciate you so much.
There is a mortgage champion in everybody, Dale, and you know that. And thank you for the time, and thank you for the chance to impact everybody. When you wake up or the next time you look in the mirror, let the champion inside of you come out. Thanks, Dale.
Amen. God bless you, my friend. Great to see you.
See you.
Thanks for being here.
Bye-bye.